You're listening to NIL Now, a podcast dedicated to the name, image, and likeness of today's college and high school athletes.
So we're going to explore the crazy and wildly interesting world of name, image, and likeness.
NIL Now, covering the latest sports business headlines and keeping you informed on the nation's top performers. This is NIL Now, where the stars of tomorrow are getting noticed today.
It's the Wild Wild West, but we're wrangling it in.
Presented by Headline Studio and Reddit. Here are your hosts, Lauren Zisler and Kevin Jones.
What is up, my friends? We're back for another episode of NIL Now, a production of Headline Studio and Reddit, where we cover the crazy, wildly interesting world of name, image, and likeness. Later, we're going to hear from Michigan beat writer Ryan Zuke about some Wolverine NIL news, so stick around for that. But first, my man, KJ, what's up?
What up? Sisler, what's going on?
NIL headlines.
All right, Kevin, so this headline here makes me a little queasy because this one did not go oh so well. So Jaden Rashada, four-star quarterback from California, reportedly wants out of that national letter of intent that he signed with Florida during the early signing period. Rashada, back in November, signed a $13 million NIL deal with the Gator Collective when he committed to Florida back in November. He played at the Under Armour All-American Games, said he planned to go straight to Gainesville and enroll early, but he is not. And when 6 early enrollees arrived at Florida on January 10th, Rashada was not one of them. It is rumored he once released from his national letter of intent because the Gator Collective sent him a termination letter on the $13 million contract before the early signing period. Oh, there's so much to unpack here. I'm embarrassed for everybody. All accounts, everybody, all around. What are your thoughts?
I think the initial deal is irresponsible in my mind. How are you, as a collective, any school, I don't care how much capital you got, offering a high school kid $13 million without doing anything in college yet? I just think that's ridiculous. So when I first heard the number, the $13 million number for one kid coming out of high school going into college, I was just like, who in the heck is okaying this? How are they gathering that capital for somebody who hasn't done anything yet? So that's not a knock, and that's not a knock on Rashada. Obviously, super talented, ton of upside. But as a collective and as grown people running businesses or running collectives, and that's part of the problem, they're running collectives and not businesses, why are you spending $13 million on a kid? And apparently, you're not spending $13 million on a kid because you're not spending $13 million on him. It was like the deal didn't. I don't know if the deal was ever valid, right? So one of the things is we don't know, because there's a lack of transparency with a lot of the stuff that's going on at each school, each collective, is all the details. So that could have been a lot of these deals that's like that are paid out over time. So it's not just a $13 million check. But the idea that you're giving somebody $13 million, maybe there was. I can't even imagine what there was, because you're not supposed to be incentivized, and it's not supposed to be an inducement to come to your university. So what is that $13 million? How was it ever realistic is what I wonder. So the reason why I'm saying that's irresponsible is because they even came out and had that be out there publicly. And then now to publicly have to take that back, no matter what happened, is egg on the face for everybody. It's kind of crazy.
And Kevin, I think what's really interesting is the timeline in all of this. The Athletic did a really good job of sort of breaking things down, very detailed timeline of how things have kind of gotten really messy here. And, if you kind of scroll down here into the January timeframe, talking about the panic that sort of has happened and also the potential litigation that could happen based on the contract that was, binding him up in November, because this could play a substantial role on where he ends up next, right? So now he's locked up in November into a contract with all this money at stake, and he could have missed other opportunities to go somewhere else. And, the significance of the $13 million, I agree with you, reckless. I think that's ridiculous, crazy. Could you have offered him like a sliver of that and still gotten the same return, It'd be interesting to know that. And I think one thing you and I have talked about before is the transparency, not knowing, because it is a business, what was he up against? What were some of the other offers? What were other people trying to bring to him to get him to lock in at the school? And would he have come to Florida for much less or nothing at all, right? I just got a lot of questions here, a lot of questions, and I'm just embarrassed for everybody involved in this one.
Something else that's an issue for me, being in the space and hearing stories, and also being a former like pro athlete and having an agent, quite frankly, being a part of a athletic department before. There's too many middlemen. And all these middlemen have their hands in the pie and advising kids to do this and trying to advise collectives and schools to do that. It's ridiculous. So when you talk about the Wild Wild West, that's part of why people say that, is because there's too many people in the middle with agendas, and they're basically trying to control how they're being compensated. So I guarantee you it's not just this kid and his parents that's a part of this situation. It's not just them who made the decision. And I guarantee you that it's not just the collective who's steering this boat the way that it went. So I'm sure somebody dropped the ball somewhere. This doesn't sound pure. Hey, here's $13 million for your services. And okay, cool, I'll sign that. And then I'll guarantee you it wasn't that clean. There's a lot of things that's probably happened in between to first of all even get to a $13 million number. Like I said, is ridiculous. And then to not honor it is even more crazy, because if you say something like that, you damn better well maybe honoring that. Because if you don't, we're going to be talking about it. This is ridiculous. Egg on the face.
Yeah, egg on the face. I mean, this is just bad for all parties all around. So, hopefully things get squared away. I'm a big fan of Billy Napier at Florida. I've covered a couple of his games now since he took over. And, it just stinks because this is one area that he specifically said that he doesn't quite have a grip on, much like many coaches. And I think now, obviously, it's starting to kind of come into vision and sight now that we've been doing this for a little bit, for almost 2 years. But this definitely tarnishes a program, and now kids look at it. And then also it's kind of like, oh, whoa, like this guy was going to get $13 million. Like, what about me? And, I think there's just so many things that come from this, that so much fallout that come from this.
There's outsiders trying to be in the space, and there's people, you never even know, like I said, where that $13 million number came from. It could have been some representative asking or promising a kid something, and then now, you try to make the collective stand, collective agree to something like that. It's just, that's what I'm saying. I don't really want to put the blame on Florida solely, because we don't know the details.
Correct. Exactly. No. And that's what I'm saying. I don't want to put the blame on Florida either. And I do want to make sure I make that clear. And that's why I think I feel so bad for Napier, and I feel bad for the program itself, because like you said, there are so many people making these decisions and talking about this. And in some ways, Napier didn't just, we don't know the conversations, but I don't think he just went to a collective and said, all right, y'all need to come up with 13 mil for this kid, right?
Absolutely not. Yeah. There's representatives. There's representatives out here who are trying to drive numbers up and things like that. So we just got to be careful. Even on our team over here, like we said, we're not sure if Florida just came up with that number and they thought they had it and then they didn't. That's the first conclusion that anybody could just come up with. I guarantee you that it's more than that.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's jump to our second headline. And this one's kind of a fun one. Switching gears a little bit here. Connor, a.k.a. Big Cozy Williams, signed an NIL deal.
Let's go, Big Cozy.
The Big Cozy. He signed an NIL deal with Leaf Trading Cards. 7 foot, 360-pound basketball player signed that deal, marking the first Division III NIL trading card deal. Williams plays for St. John Fisher in Rochester, New York. Went viral in a video of him tripping on the court, then feeding a beautiful assist to his teammate. The card features Williams' autograph, and those are going to sell for $19.99 on Leaf's website. And this, of course, is not the first of the deals he has. He's got several deals. Barstool Sports, DXL Big and Tall, which is very fitting, and Crazy Dog t-shirts. And so kind of interesting, Williams, he's appeared in 9 games this season, averages 2.4 points per game. We know he's the big man making the blocks and getting up there in the post. This is fun. I think this is where I think we talk about where NIL can be beneficial and can really make a difference and maybe what it's initially been intended for. And here's something where a Division III athlete gets to have some fun with it.
Yeah, man, I really like this. Not to mention he's a baller. Like, he can actually shoot and do all those things. It's funny to sit there and watch him. He got a nice little stroke, pop of the wrist, all of that good stuff. So it's cool to see him be rewarded for the things that he's actually doing on the court. So he's definitely a superstar to make and getting some NIL deals. I think hopefully this thing just keep rolling and rolling and he get more deals.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Love it. It's just kind of cool how this is something that comes up because you see this viral video of him and, a guy, obviously a very big guy that's out here playing, putting himself out there, as you said, a contributor on the team, to be able to see him kind of jump back up, make the play that he did and really use this as something positive. And, I love seeing some of the t-shirts and the things like that, the cartoons, and just kind of showing that you don't have to once again be this superstar athlete or a certain type of profile where, you're out here stroking 20 points per game. You can also make deals because of just being unique and different and being out here, with maybe a different type of profile or a different type of athlete that, gets looks and obviously can create opportunities that way.
Yeah, it's funny. He showed some composure with that row. His pants was halfway down. He should have got the booty cream, but we're just gonna leave him with the. We're
foreshadowing on the booty cream, aren't we?
Yeah, boy. These NIL deals out here, he should have got the booty cream, like I said, kept it lubed up, and when you go for the shot, then it's like butter.
NIL headlines.
All right, now for our second segment of episode 12, we bring in Bobak Kyrie of the Reddit College football team, always bringing some fun headlines. And we've got some fun ones today coming from the threads of Reddit. And Division II Lake Erie College offensive lineman Dieunerst Collin, you may not know the name, but now you're going to know the name. Dieunerst Collin, known for the Popeyes meme, officially signs deal with Popeyes. Kevin, Bobak, do you guys remember this meme? Do you guys, without even looking it up, do you remember the Popeyes meme that I'm speaking of?
I didn't know it was associated with Popeyes. And I think there were, in fact, when it first came up, a lot of folks on Reddit didn't even know it was associated with Popeyes. But we knew the meme, like his reaction. He's a young kid, the husky guy in a line, but he's giving these perfect eyes of like, what do you want me to do? Like, it's the look of silent, what do you expect me to do in this situation, that kind of made it a fun reaction meme and something that had staying power because it's just an expressive face and all of it. But then apparently it was originally filmed at Popeyes. Who knew? So somebody spotted that online, and then we got this crazy kind of, I think it started on Twitter and spread to Reddit and other social media, this kind of grassroots meme growth to sort of demand that if there's going to be an NIL deal, well, Popeyes, this is your chance.
Yeah, I find it funny, man. That face and his demeanor. I think it took off because he was a kid and he looks like a grown man making that face. Like, why are you taking a picture of me with my Popeyes cup? Somebody had to snap that shot. So I feel like that's the reaction. And so the meme is like, when you catch somebody taking a photo of you.
And my favorite part about the whole thing is like the dude, he still looks exactly the same. And he still has that same expression when you kind of look through some of his pictures, like his huddle videos, his like images that you see of him, I guess his like bio photos. Like it's a spitting image of him. He's just grown, about 5 feet. So, I think this is fitting. Bobak, what are some of the things that you've seen that have stood out to you on the Reddit channel that are pretty comical?
That's a good question. With the way this thing evolved, it was kind of fun to watch each step because at first people identified who it was on social media. And then that spread this kind of grassroots. Well, okay, this seems to be like the perfect moment for a NIL deal, although some people wanted to more take a quick stab at Popeyes being a quote Louisiana kitchen. But that is just basically a KFC knockoff. But
Whoa.
That's a foul.
I don't get the allure of Popeyes. I remember growing up in Bakersfield. It was just like another, like they actually gave like when I was a kid, like eraser style Popeyes, like olive oil figures, like all of the characters. But I had no idea it was a Louisiana Kitchen. That's just some newer thing. And they're headquartered in Atlanta, I think.
The Cajun KFC.
It's all in the batter, baby. It's all in the batter. Oh, man.
Oh man, somebody made a comment and said, because like I said, he's 330 pounds now. Somebody said, yeah, that Popeye's chicken will do that to you.
Oh yeah.
Steady dose of the Popeye.
But yeah, some folks thought this was what NIL was really for. I think that comment by Swamp Chomp, a Florida fan, really kind of succinctly put it. And then once they officially signed it, I think that, and you got that tweet from Popeyes, a lot of people were sort of happy to see that, because that's a kind of silliness where, this would have been a cool, because I mean, think about it. This happened 10 years earlier, and there were memes, of course, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. He wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. Popeyes would have been like, oh yeah, there's the guy who's probably one of the most popular memes associated with our brand, and we can't do anything to him, otherwise we'll accidentally get him to lose his eligibility. But now they can, and when people pointed it out, I mean, I think that's a smart move by Popeyes too. Probably not a huge NIL deal, although it's probably, as some people here guessed, maybe the biggest or one of the bigger ones in Division II. But I mean, they got a lot of free publicity out of this, a lot of social media, knowledge on Twitter, on Reddit, on, I saw a couple of news channels that did little pieces on this. And I mean, it's got to be great for Dennis. Now he's getting a lot more attention, and it's wonderful for him. I think it's great. And I'm glad it's happening, because a lot of times these kids don't necessarily get the most out of being turned into memes when they're unwilling toddlers or children, right?
Yeah, and I think my favorite part too is when Popeyes announced it. They said, "From memes to dreams." That was like the caption that they put on the meme that they sort of made of him. So I think I'd be interested in knowing more about what exactly the NIL deal contains outside of money. Is there, I guess, like Popeyes for life kind of involved in that? And I'd also be curious to know how many Popeyes are in his vicinity of where he's at, being that it is a Louisiana-style kitchen.
Ooh, that's a great question. So let's see. That's in Paynesville, I think. Paynesville, Ohio. So yeah, it's like Cleveland area. There's got to be a fair number around Cleveland. I mean, now does he show up and does he get like a special card? Like they should give him a special card, like an ID card that shows a picture of him as a young man and a picture of him now, and like in metal, like I don't know if you ever saw Up in the Air with George Clooney when he gets to become like a super flyer. They give him like a silver card. They got to give him that. So every time he goes, maybe give it like unlimited credit. They can actually run it like a card, because some stores might not believe it's really him. And then boom, he gets that. I mean, that is the ultimate deal right there.
Yeah, and then he gets to take his entire offensive line to Popeyes for life, and that's, I mean, he's in. That's great. I love it. All right, so good stuff there. This next one's pretty interesting too. I'm excited about this one. So Oklahoma quarterback General Booty and the collective Crimson and Cream have released the Generals Crimson Cream, and a lot of different directions. It says Prohibition Soap, the Generals Crimson Cream, Blood Orange Margarita Body Cream is what we're working with here. And
I just want to know where they got that particular combination of words for the like blood orange margarita. Like, I like blood oranges. I like margaritas. I've never had a blood orange margarita, but I mean, also a body soap that smells like it. So do I smell like I just went and got really hammered at a Mexican restaurant the night before? Is that what you smell like after this, but have smooth skin? I mean, also, why didn't, as a lot of folks on Reddit have pointed out, why isn't it booty cream?
Yes. I mean, because there is a need for booty cream out there, especially you men out there, right? I mean,
no, I don't. What do you mean, right? Fresh out the shower. I thought, is it soap or is it body cream? Which one is it?
I think I guess body cream would mean like both? A lotion, right?
Yeah, but I thought I heard soap in here too, but maybe I'm tripping.
I think it's just a lotion, I assumed.
I don't know. I mean, but here's the thing. Body cream is for your entire body, so you could be putting that up on your booty.
Yeah, I mean, why limit yourself? Exactly. One of the comments I did enjoy was, an Oklahoma fan pointed out that Booty came to Oklahoma to play football and release sick products, and he's not playing any football.
I mean, I'm surprised, like the Pirates booty. He should be getting out on the Pirates booty, the snacks, those are pretty good.
My kids love that.
That's what I thought this was going to be when I first heard the title, but then I realized it was this Prohibition soap. See, it's Prohibition soap. I guess that's the company. It's a soap company that's having body cream.
So I guess that's why they went with the alcohol theme. That makes some sense, I guess Booty Sweat, as one Ohio State fan pointed out, was already trademarked by Al Pacino.
I think y'all, we got to check back in like 10 years. We got to have a long laundry list of kids that are being named. I guess it'll be longer than 10 years, but named for these kind of deals, because General Booty, it's pretty good. I say, in my mind keeps thinking of that song, Booty, 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 rocking everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I found
Mr.
you,
Booty.
Mr.
Yeah.
Booty.
At USC when John David Booty would take the field when he was the quarterback there in 06. I remember that. Every time he'd take the field, the band at USC would start playing that. I do wonder, like in 10, 15 years, will we find out, in a couple years, the NCAA will maybe change it a little bit so you can't make it quite this explicit. And so are we going to get a whole wave of kids 20 years from now trying to explain why they're named after products and why it never really panned out? Because it would be like all those kids that were named after characters in Game of Thrones before the series ended, and then found out they're named after like the homicidal queen who burned half of King's Landing in the last episode. There's a lot of girls out there running around called Daenerys.
Oh, wow. Oh, y'all. That's good. That's good. I love it. All right. Go get y'all some booty cream. Let me know how it goes. Okay?
You're listening to NIL Now.
Alrighty, now for our third and final segment, we welcome in our guest today from MLive.com, Ryan Zuke. He covers Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines athletics for MLive.com, and lots to unpack here because there's been a lot, of course, in the NIL space from Michigan athletics, and a couple different things of note. Valiant Management Group, which had brokered most of the deals through Michigan's collective. The Champion Circle raised over $4 million in deals for Michigan student athletes. And one of those guys really benefited from that because last week he decided he's coming back to Michigan. Blake Corum deciding to come back because of the NIL deals. So just kind of give us your sort of take on how the NIL space has really transformed since obviously its inception, and how that's been a big sales point, especially for guys like Blake to come back and decide to continue playing for Michigan.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because I think even last year, Blake was one of the guys most involved in NIL, and obviously with his amazing 2020 season, he was kind of his stock only rose in the national sphere. So it's huge. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate before he got hurt, and he had a major decision to make after he suffered that knee injury against Illinois late in the year. Yeah, obviously there's money to be made in the NFL, and even with the injury, there's going to be NFL teams interested. But I mean, Michigan has a lot of key players that have eligibility to return, with Corum being one of them. And like you mentioned, Valiant kind of recently just launched this one more year fund, trying to kind of pool money to entice players to come back for an extra year, kind of keep this the band back together and did another run for it in 2023. And yeah, he announced that he was going to return. And I think this was a huge role in his decision because, yeah, I mean, he has the name recognition. I mean, he's great in front of a camera, and obviously he was the heartbeat of this team throughout most of the year. So it's a huge get for Michigan to get him back in the fold for next year. And I think that NIL played a major role in that.
What did you think before Blake re-signing or coming back, deciding to come back? Does that change your mind on the NIL space, or is that like a confirmation for you personally? I'm just wondering, like, what have you been thinking over time, and then now this has happened, it's kind of giving maybe a different take on it?
Well, I think, it's pretty well known at this point. I think Michigan maybe was a little bit slow out of the gate when NIL first launched. I think they saw maybe some SEC schools, some other big programs, maybe passing them in that space. And I think when new president Santaono kind of took over, he kind of knew, Michigan's never going to be involved in the pay-to-play stuff, and they're going to try and run a clean program. I know they're recently under investigation for recruiting violations, but that kind of not really NIL related. So I think they're starting to realize they need to gain traction in this regard. And even athletic director Ward Manuel came out recently, kind of said like, hey, we need your support, where he kind of supported the four collectives at Michigan and kind of detailed them and what they're about, trying to kind of spread awareness of what they do and why it's important for this university. So I think you're starting to see progress made. Valiant has kind of executed over $4 million in NIL deals for Michigan athletes. So there's progress starting to be made. And I think it's going to play a big role for Michigan in not just retaining players, but getting players to come to Michigan. I mean, you looked at their success this year, undefeated regular season, second straight Big Ten title. And then you look at the recruiting class and it's not even ranked in the top 15. So immediately you kind of think, all right, is there NIL involvement here? And I mean, one of their top recruits just before signing day flipped to Miami, who finished 5-7 this year. So you immediately kind of go to, all right, what's going on behind the scenes there? I mean, these recruits out there and say, yeah, I mean, this team offered me this much money to go there, but you can kind of read between the lines a little bit. So I think Michigan's starting to make some headway, and it's much needed too if they're going to continue to remain at near the top of college football.
Yeah, and Ryan, I'm curious to know, just because you're around the program, Jim Harbaugh, obviously a personality in and of itself, in and of himself, somebody that's, very outspoken, doesn't shy away from his thoughts and feelings. How have you seen him handle NIL, and how much of the NIL has been discussed, within the Michigan football program and around those media events this past season?
Harbaugh has remained throughout this that he wants Michigan to be a transformational experience, not a transactional experience when it comes to NIL. Reiterated that multiple times. So I think he can maybe be a little bit more open to and kind of promote NIL a little bit better. But he's there to win football games. I mean, he's kind of old school in that way. And as far as players, I mean, we've asked questions about NIL for the last 2 seasons now. We've gotten some interesting answers about what kind of deals they have, but Michigan tries to keep things on the down low in terms of what deals are being made. Players don't really like to talk about what type of deals they're signing, because I don't know if they don't want it to affect how it is or any dynamics in the locker room. And I mean, I think it helps on the field. They play really well and they've always kind of give their teammates support and whatnot. But you can see in the community, I mean, JJ McCarthy, he's had a lot of NIL deals as a former 5-star quarterback. Obviously, first year as a starter, played pretty well. If you're in the Michigan TV area, you turn on the TV, there's a Mike Morris law firm commercial that's been on a lot with Mike Morris, who just actually declared for the NFL draft. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely out there, but Michigan tries to keep things under wrap for as far as talking about it in public spaces.
So what's your personal opinion with the NIL space? Do you feel like it's more of a distraction or more of a value add, or are you kind of in the middle, like just trying to get your feel for it?
I mean, heck, if I was on the team, I would talk about my NIL deals all the time. I mean, like, I think it's good publicity. I mean, especially there's been some cool ones out there too. And I think, I mean, if in the lighthearted way, you can kind of promote it and talk about it and not make your teammates jealous or anything like that. So I like when players are open about it and talk about it. So, but I mean, I can understand both ways. I mean, if you're a 5-star quarterback and you're talking and saying, hey, I've gotten this and this and this, and then maybe that could rub some guys the other way, but that's why this NIL was created, to promote opportunities for athletes to profit off their name, image, and likeness. So I don't think people should feel ashamed for talking about it and in an open space. But that's my personal opinion, and I understand. I mean, on a team with over 100 players, there's going to be different personalities that view it differently, but that's my personal opinion on it.
Ryan, a question I have for you, just being around the program, have there been any deals that have kind of jumped out, maybe as silly or fun or entertaining, or anything that's kind of stood out to you in this process and some of the latest wave of NIL deals?
I think the one that I like the most is I mean, it's probably gets some of the most viewership is the Mike Morris commercial with the lawyer Mike Morris in Metro Detroit. I mean, the latest one I saw was with a couple other big name players on Michigan's defense and Mike Morris's family at dinner and fumbling a piece of bread and stuff. And I know Mike Morris at the Fiesta Bowl Media Day was talking about how he wants to be an actor when he grows up too. So this was maybe kind of his first step into that. So I think NIL gave him that opportunity to get maybe some of that camera space. And I like the ones, I know Blake Corum has given back a lot through some of his NIL profits. He's had a turkey drive the past 2 years and donated turkeys to families in need. I know JJ McCarthy has donated a lot of his proceeds to childhood research and medical cancers and stuff like that. So I love to see that part of the NIL space as well, seeing these athletes give back. So those are probably the ones that stick out the most to me.
Kind of based on obviously the recent news that Blake is sticking around, Blake Corum, and just how things have sort of transpired, and the conversation has kind of been if these NIL deals come through and can potentially keep guys around longer, that maybe it's more lucrative from them to stay than to take that chance and go to the next level to turn pro. Do you personally think that you're going to see more and more players stick around for that NIL money, especially there at Michigan, if they continue to be able to provide that funding and support?
Most definitely. I mean, that's always a factor when players are deciding, hey, do I stay or should I go? And I mean, if I declare for the NFL draft, where will I be selected? What will my first contract be like? And then now it's like, all right, well, if I stay, continue to get an education, and I can make so-and-so from just being on the team, yeah, maybe I'll stay for another year, improve my draft stock while also being able to profit. So I know that's why Valiant kind of launched this new one more year fund, because they want some of these guys to come back. I know there's a couple key offensive linemen that have yet to make their decisions. Trevor Keaton and Zach Zinner, both key members of this Joe Moore award-winning offensive line for the past 2 years. I mean, if they can get both of those guys back, that would be huge. That's why this kind of initiative was launched. And I'm sure if it has a lot of support and they're able to get a lot of donors and boosters to kind of pool their money in and keep some of these guys, it's only going to help in the future.
Love it. Good stuff, Ryan. We appreciate the insight. And of course, if you want to follow Ryan Zuke, you can follow him on Twitter, Ryan Zuke. That's Zuke, Ryan Zuke. And again, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us, Ryan Zuke from M Live.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty. And of course, you can follow us at NIL Now Show on Instagram and Twitter, or Reddit NIL. Tell a friend, let us know what you think about the show. Find next week's episode out wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you to Bobak and the Reddit College Football team for their help. You can follow them at Reddit College Football on Twitter and online at Reddit College Football. I'm Lauren Sisler. My co-host is Kevin Jones. A big thanks to our audio engineer, Colin Schmeling, our associate producer, Dean, and our executive producers, Richard Diamond, Selena Roberts, and Scott Roeder. We'll see you again next week. Peace.
Thanks for listening to NIL Now, presented by Headline Studio and Reddit.